Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 2495 Myrtle Ave Northeast here in Salem. We are located, I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front door of the house, or the front of the home in general. We are on the back side of the home right now, kind of near that this little extra bit of gravel driveway over here the fence is at. Anyway, there's that. There's the back patio. Here's your clean out. Should this thing get buried and covered up, it lines up almost perfectly with the electric meter, just about 6 inches, 8 inches to the right of it, and about a foot out from the house, under a little green valve cover box. Anyway, dropping into 4-inch PVC pipe here, checking the overall condition, serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Waters are running. We're going to zero out at the base of the clean out. And off we go. Nice clean flow line right out of the gate here. No grease buildup, a little bit of standing water there. We'll take a second look at that when the line's drained out at the end, but I don't suspect you're going to have much of a belly left over once the line drains out. It's already pretty rinky-dink even with water running. Maybe a 2-foot section of pipe, probably holding about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of water. Another super minor belly. This one you will hardly even see once the line drains out. Those are not the kind of bellies I'm after. And this is a very nice example of how a line should be treated. Kudos to the current homeowners or tenants, whoever it may be. There is hardly a speck of buildup in here, most notably no grease buildup in the line. A little more significant belly there. We'll see how that one drains off at the end. Yeah, a little particulate floating in the water there, in that standing water. No thick buildup, nothing major. You're gonna get particulate in standing water. When I say particulate, I mean stuff that is like little tiny little specks. Fine particulate. This thing really snakes around here. There we go, there's the dive. All right, off into 3034 PVC pipe now. I think we had a flush transition there. I'll take a second look at that on the way. I think we're still in 4-inch. It might have bumped to 6-inch. We'll see. And if you're newer to home ownership, I've done almost 25,000 sewer scopes at this point in my career. Hundreds and hundreds of drain cleaning jobs. Grease buildup is something I've become a big stickler on. I like to point it out when people are doing things right. It is about the only thing you can do as a homeowner to maintain the functionality of your line. Otherwise, you're at the will of nature. It's buried underground, but it's one of the few things you can do to help mitigate flow problems, is not putting greases, fats, and oils down your line. If you do it consistently, it will build up like crazy. I have found that it is a very common contributing factor to blockages when they happen. And they often are, it's often one of the things that it can exacerbate on the fence issues, even pretty significant problems, into stuff that can truly cause an issue. We're getting into something here. There we go. Another belly in the line. And there's the main. Big sewer. Much bigger than I thought it was going to be. So you're about 119 feet to the main there. And bellies, I'll take a look through this spot here as best I can, that standing water we just went through. Bellies at this distance from the house have very, very little chance of causing a blockage and a backup. And under a theoretical scenario where a blockage does happen, you're having to fill up at minimum probably about 110 feet of pipe just to get back to the foundation wall. If not, probably another 10, 15, 20 feet of pipe to get back into the house entirely, to the first fixture. Filling up 120 plus feet of pipe creates an immense amount of head pressure. That's the water weight sitting on the blockage. There are very, very few blockages out there made of proper items like toilet paper, for instance, that can withstand that kind of head pressure without busting loose long before that water ever got back to the house. So I will take a look though to make sure that I'll do my darndest to make sure the pipe looks like everything's intact there. But plastic pipe can settle to an incredible extent without breaking. Relative to our older pipe materials like concrete and cast iron, they settle much more than about a half of an inch. The joints open up to the ground. Plastic pipe does not have that same problem, typically speaking. Alright, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Myrtle Ave Northeast. So it's a wraparound sewer line. So this is a line shooting out the back like this is an indicator this home likely used to be on a septic or cesspool. And because of how expensive it is to reverse the plumbing under a home to go back out the front, like your average home would have, most folks opt to just keep the line going out the back and then wrap it around the house, and that's what this one does. So the line shoots out the back of the home, wraps around the right side of the house, same side as that little bit of driveway is on there, and then as it makes its way up, it parallels the right side of the home there for a bit, and then it kind of cuts over through the front yard, and by the time it straightens out and shoots off into the road, you're lined up fairly well with the front door of the home. Anyway, that belly there dissipates off at about 118 feet. And as my camera goes through there, obviously, my camera's underwater, so we don't get a super duper good view of everything, but what I do not feel with my camera are any edges on the pipe joints, where a joint feels like it might be separated or something of that nature. As far as depth of water there goes, you're probably in the 2-inch or so mark. Let's see if I can push back out into this thing here without the water flowing. One of my little tricks here. Yeah, you're looking like you're just over 2 inches there. That wire line just about pulls down below my camera lens when I pull back quickly. And when I rip a camera back quick like that in a belly, and you've got about 2 inches or less water in the pipe, the wire line will very obviously pull down below the camera lens. When you've got 2 inches or more, this is approximately anyway, it generally speaking won't happen. That wire line got very close to coming down. So you're probably in the 2.5 inch, maybe 3 inches of standing water realm there. And the belly here runs from around, it's about 111 feet to 108 feet, 18 feet. Given the distance, and if you notice here, all the pipe leading right up to that spot is spotless clean. There is zero buildup, zero debris at the top of the pipe. That's your most important indicator. If you start seeing debris gack to the top of the pipe and the sidewalls, that's what tells you the line is actually blocked in the past and at least partially backed up, which I don't see any evidence of even a partial backup and then it breaking loose on its own. So it's too far away to pose any kind of high risk for blockages occurring. And without any obvious signs of the pipe being broken there, again, it's not an absolute perfect science when you're submerged underwater like that, but one of the things you find after scoping a bajillion lines, when you've got bad joints, things like that, you can feel it with the camera. The camera will go over an edge. Anyway, it's way too far away from the home, in my opinion, to require repairs. Especially being a belly and smooth plastic pipe. That smooth pipe wall really mitigates a lot of buildup. So the only scenario where I could ever see a belly like that at that distance contributing to a blockage is under very heavy abusive scenarios, where you are flushing wipes and paper towels down the pipe on a constant basis and wadding them up like a softball. You would have to be going out of your way to accomplish that at those distances. And honestly, even the average paper towel blockage, assuming it wasn't 3 or 4 feet of pipe completely packed full of debris, would break loose too. That gives you an idea there. So you have like the world's tiniest belly here that it's hard to even gauge the exact dimensions of it. It's about right around 68 feet here is where it dissipates off. And it starts right on the turn here. It's from about 65 to 68 feet there. You might have a 1/16 of an inch of water. Extremely minor. Anyhow, keep your line nice and clean like this. Again, the main thing is avoiding the one that a lot of households miss is not dumping or getting all your cooking oil and grease down the sink. Obviously, wipes, paper towels, things like that. The average person out there usually knows not to put that down the pipe. But if you've got enough grease or oil on your pans, kind of the rule of thumb I tell most people to live by. If there's enough on your pans when your pans are hot, if you turn that pan sideways, if there's enough on there that it runs off the pan in beads or worse, it's at that point you want to do something about it. Either pour it into a jar while it's still liquid, a glass jar, metal coffee can, or let it cool down, wipe it out with a paper towel, or scrape it off into a garbage can. A thin little coating of PAM spray, no big deal. Just always use hot water and soap when you're dealing with any kind of grease. And on a line this length, after your last dish was scrubbed off, if you notice some amounts getting down there, for a line this long, you want to let your hot water continue to run for about a full minute after that last dish was washed. That helps to ensure that anything that got down the line remains melted and emulsified till it gets to the main. And honestly, you might even want to do it a little bit longer than a minute. This is a very long sewer. Your average line out there is about 60 feet. That gives you an idea. So once that pipe's underground, that water starts to cool off rapidly. And when you shut your sink off right after you scrubbed off your last dish, that water cools off very, very fast. That's why you want to keep it running hot for a bit. And then another belly here from about 30... I've got a little bit of a light glare on my screen right now. Apologize. That's more like 34 feet. Right around 34 feet. See, the water line here is just barely. Let's see, now we're at about a 1/2 inch of water there. Let's settle in here, still at about a 1/2 of an inch. Yeah, depending on where you're at in that belly, you're between 1/4 and a 1/2 inch of standing water. Again, zero buildup, zero blockage evidence. And a line being treated half decent, I would not expect to see blockage and buildup and heavy duty stuff like that unless the line was also being abused. And the other thing I was going to mention to you too, my experience, the average sewer line out there on a flat property like this, it's not up on a big hillside where the property provides natural slope and grade. Most sewer lines that push over about 90 to 100 feet will very, very routinely have bellies in them. It's extraordinarily common. I tend to treat these lines a little bit differently than your average sewer line. You're working with very tight tolerances. You're running a line out about 2 to 3 times the distance that you would normally be running it, and that makes your tolerances very tight. And even on brand new construction sewer lines, you put a brand new house here in this day and age and have someone run a line that long, I will just about guarantee you're going to have bellies similar to what you're seeing here. So doesn't make it a good thing, but it's just, but these are not significant enough to warrant. I can't even recommend you spend $5 drain cleaning this line, let alone go into the effort of digging stuff like that up. Your best bet here is just treat the line appropriately. Don't put grease and cooking oil down it. Grease is going to be the most common thing that will hang up in any amount of standing water at all. Grease will cool down when it hits 1/4 inch of water or 3 inches. Now we're into cast iron pipe. And we've got some amount of standing water going back into the house here too. When we come out the other side of it though, again, my camera right now is upside down. Both top and bottom of the pipe here are clean with no buildup. And your hard part with a line like this is in order to grade, in total here, we've run back, let's see how far in we are now. Really hit the back end of the line. Yeah, there's the clean out access down inside the crawl space. That's the back end most part of the line right there. We're sitting right around where the bathroom is currently. You got almost 150-foot sewer line on a flat property, wraparound sewer. In order to get things like this graded proper, realistically, you kind of need to install the entire thing at one time to where you can dial the grading in even all the way back into the house. This line, when it was first installed and built, was designed likely to go to a septic system right outside the back of the house. You know, 10, 15, 20 feet away, not 150. This is the reasoning I treat these a little bit differently than your average line. So this one here runs from around 16 feet. And again, this is going back into the house. And your water line there is sitting right around 1/2 of an inch of water. About 16 to 21 feet. All the pipe here is intact. Again, clean, no blockage evidence, no buildup. You can see how that piece of pipe there settled right about where the new pipe came in. Another common issue when you spot repair and splice into old plumbing, it's an easy thing to do, is cause some settling, start loosening up soil in and around the line that's been in the ground for forever, and it's a common result. You know, when you get bellies like this sporadically throughout the line, it's one of those ones where even the average, not that I'm recommending you fix it, but to fix something like this, you'd have to redo most of the sewer line to get the grade proper on it. Just, it's not worth messing with, in my opinion. It's just way too much overkill for what you've got. And then 13 feet here. Again, similar to the other one, you're between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch of water here. Now, because of the standing water, you do want to be a little more vigilant than the average household out there with a perfectly graded sewer line as it relates to improper stuff. You want to make sure that cooking oil and grease and stuff like that's not going down the line. Stuff that's going to easily, you know, if it does build up, anything you want stopping up in a line is something you want to disintegrate very easily. So this is one of those lines you want to keep it to just toilet paper, folded toilet paper ideally, not balled up. All right, we're going to go ahead and reel that. And I will notate those all in the report here. Anyhow, as it sits, everything we just scoped there, all of it's intact. We have adequate flow to the main lateral. It is not perfect flow, but honestly, after this much time doing scopes, I would not expect perfect flow out of a line this way. It's set up this way. But it is clearly conveying sewage adequately, as we have zero buildup in the sewer line. Line is functioning at this time. If you are a larger household with a lot of kids, or you do a lot of deep fat frying and you know some gunk is getting down the pipe, honestly, I would rather than see someone attempt to redo this thing, and with the bellies that you've got throughout this line, all your pipe is dependent upon itself for grade. So your grade is only going to be as good as everything else it's connected to. So that's why I say when you've got standing water starting back in the home and extending all the way out to the main, it doesn't make sense to redo a 150-foot sewer line for something like this. Not when it's already been updated almost entirely. But some folks will opt to do periodic hydrojetting to keep buildup down. That's if you're putting stuff down the line that can actually build up on you. If you're avoiding grease, cooking oil, stuff like that, wipes, paper towels, and I include flushable wipes in the improper category, you want nothing to do with those things on your average home, but especially a line that is this length. When you flush your toilet on a line this length, even if it was graded perfectly, you'll be lucky if your debris gets more than about 30 to 40 feet before stopping up. So it's a conjunction of water coming from sinks, showers, everything else under the sun that helps to convey everything through. So you want what's going down this line to just be normal, regular stuff that's going to disintegrate and break down easily and move on its way. But anyway, back to what I was saying there. If you do think that some kind of stuff like that gets down the line, every household lives different. You can always rescope in a year, see how the buildup's looking. That can help you kind of determine what living habits to change and fix up to help avoid it. You know, and again, some folks do periodic hydrojetting, but if you're treating the line like these folks have been, there's no reason to do any of that kind of stuff.